And ANC supporters and MPs celebrating the election of their new president, Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, yesterday, you might have been surprised last night when the ANC at Luthuli House, the Deputy Secretary General was the one presenting the statement from the ANC, and the Secretary General was nowhere to be seen. But the Secretary General, we believe, went to Parys in the Free State. And the Deputy Secretary General told us that it was not abnormal, that one of the things that the leadership was going to be doing is to be deployed to the various parts of the country to explain this decision to its branch networks across the country. And so that the Secretary General, Ace Magashule, had gone to the Free State, which is his home province, where he's still the Premier, and Parys in particular, to start that process. And so hopefully what we're trying to do is go to Parys. Aldrin Sampear is out there, just to get a sense of what's happening there. It seems like we've got a bit of a sound problem with Aldrin Sampear at the moment, but I do know that right now Evan has got a guest that's standing. We've got tweets, we've got some messages that have come through. Social media, people have been responding to the presidential election. Raisa says, congratulations, Mr. President Cyril Ramaphosa. Lunga says we have a new commander-in-chief in town. And the woman says Ramaphosa for President of the Republic of South Africa. Right, so those are some of your messages that are coming through. We're picking them up on our Twitter handle, so please continue to share with that. But let's go to Parys in the Free State and just find out what the mood in the province is, and also perhaps find out what's up with Ace Magashule. Aldrin?
Well, yes, we are here in the Free State in Parys, where we'll be speaking to, I don't know whether to introduce him as the Premier of the Free State or the Secretary General of the Free State, Ace Magashule, but of course we're speaking to him in his capacity as the Secretary General of the African National Congress. It has happened. The ANC has elected a new president in Parliament, and that president, who is now the president of the country, is Cyril Ramaphosa. What does this moment mean for the party?
Well, for the party, it means the party, as the National Executive Committee, took a decision that Cyril Ramaphosa must become the president. I think the decision of the party has been implemented, and we are thankful to Jacob Zuma for finally resigning, and we are wishing our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, as the president of the country, all the best, and we are looking forward to the year of renewal, the year of unity, and the year of making sure that we create jobs and stability in South Africa.
Just looking at Parliament, as he was about to deliver a speech, we saw the members of the EFF walk out. However, though, the president did indicate that he wants an environment where he'd be able to work with the opposition parties. What's the message of the ANC when it comes to that?
It will be good for stability of South Africa, for service to our people, because political parties, even if they are opposition, they do have and they represent their electorate, some of the electorate, and we are a multi-party democracy, and therefore it will be necessary, if we want South Africa to succeed, to engage all political parties and work together and still continue having differences where we actually differ, maybe in terms of policies, but let the country come first. And I think all the best to the new president.
Well, the next hurdle, of course, is that you have a new president, and of course it is his prerogative when it comes to cabinet. What's the party's message when it comes to ensuring that when the president eventually concludes his cabinet, if ministers are moved around, that you don't find that some ministers are being purged?
Well, I don't think there will be any purging, but of course in politics there will be some probably changes, so you can't say there is purging. And I think our president is a responsible person. Whatever he does will actually be in consultation with the organization. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we will love to make sure that we stabilize South Africa.
And what would your message then be to some of those ministers, if there are, who would find themselves without their ministerial post post the president's cabinet reshuffle?
Well, change is something else, and it might be pain, but I think change at times it's necessary. But all deployees, there is no person who is actually entitled. It's just a privilege to serve. And wherever members of the ANC are supposed to go, or where they are given some new task, I think they all understand that deployment and redeployment can happen at any given stage. So if you're a minister for 5 years, premier for, it doesn't mean you can actually finish that time. It depends on time, space, and conditions.
One question that we've been asking consistently as the media is the vacancy that has now been created, of course, the deputy president. Has a decision been taken with regards to that?
No, there is not yet any decision, but obviously we shall have to fill that vacancy, and the president will still, in consultation with the party, decide. And I think we'll move fast. The faster we move, the better.
And then, of course, it's the State of the Nation address. What are some of the issues that you'd like the president to focus on?
Well, issues of youth, I think, matters quite a lot globally. But in South Africa, it's very, very important. Of course, education is what is our priority in terms of our election manifesto 2014 and 2009 manifesto. Education has been a priority, and I'm happy that we have finally said fee-free education for the first years this year and gradually move on. The issue of land, because we have taken a decision on the land expropriation without compensation in a very responsible way, is one of those. And where my passion is also is infrastructure. And I think infrastructure is very key. Reviving, renewing the economy is so important, as well as the agriculture. In the world today, globally, agriculture can create lots and lots of jobs, and I'm looking forward to, and the issue of creating a non-racial, non-sexist, united, democratic, as well as prosperous South Africa for all. Radical economic transformation is what I'm looking for in the President's State of the Nation.
And I guess there will be no prize, just guessing right now, that the president will also touch on the issue around corruption.
Well, that's the position of the ANC. It's not just the position of the president. It's national conference resolutions all the time. We have been taking it both in the public and the private sector.
Your province actually finds itself in a situation where you have the Hawks that are currently investigating the Vrede Dairy Farm project. A couple of people have been arrested. What's your reaction to this as Premier?
Well, we have said the law, let's leave everything to the law, let the law enforcement do their work. And we still believe that people are innocent until proven otherwise. And we leave the process to the hands of the law agencies.
You haven't been directly implicated by the Hawks as it stands in their current investigations, but you have opposition parties that are saying that the Premier is liable for what has taken place. What's your reaction to that?
Why am I liable for things which I have not actually done? Because it's I'm not doing any tender, I'm not deciding on anything. All these things are departmental issues. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. There you have it from me, the Secretary General of the ANC, as well as the Premier of the Free State, who's actually now also starting to conclude his transition in terms of becoming the Secretary General of the party as he leaves the Free State as the Premier as well as the Chairperson of the ANC here in the province. It's back to you guys in studio.
Yeah, thanks a lot to Aldrin St. Pierre coming to you live from Parys in the Northern Free State. I can tell you I was there with the SG, the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Ace Magashule. And of course, earlier reports we heard that he was suffering a little bit of ill health, but it seems those were grossly exaggerated following that wide-ranging interview that we just saw. Now, I'm in studio here with Levi Ndou, political analyst. Levi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Eben.
Levi, let's go back to the beginning. I want to go back to what happened in Parliament a little bit earlier. Let's quickly start with this very presidential, statesman-like tone of Cyril Ramaphosa calling all political parties to come to the table to try and work for the betterment of South Africa. How do you read that?
Eben, when politicians are elected to go to Parliament, they're supposed to serve the entire population. And I think that is the correct step to start up with, because whether you like it or not, whether you are a president or you are the ruling party, you need all the political parties to come together. And I think what it's trying to do is to say, even though we might differ, even though we don't belong in the same political parties, it's important that we come together and work together in the interest of all South Africans. And if you have looked what Parliament has been in the past 4 years, you will then realize that it was very clear that there was no synergy amongst parliamentarians and they were not working together as a unity.
The EFF, they staged another walkout a little bit earlier. You saw that, and they also, of course, put a motion for. They're talking on the back of the DA's motion, the dissolution of this current parliament. How should we read that, and how will that play out within this idea of working together?
Well, I think the EFF, when they came into parliament 4 years ago, it was quite clear that they had a program in the main to fight against President Zuma. And I think what need to happen now would be for the party like the EFF to change strategy, because President Ramaphosa is totally different from former President Zuma. President Zuma had his own personal issues outside the government, and President Ramaphosa is a totally different human being who's opening up his arms to everyone. And at the same time, you need the EFF that must gain public confidence. And South Africans must be able to say, the EFF did not only go to Parliament to disrupt, but EFF went to Parliament to assist all South Africans.
We're about ready, Levi, to go back to Parliament. But before that, I just want you to, in 30 seconds, just quickly tell me, if you had to rate the work of the new president in Parliament today, ahead of the State of the Nation address tomorrow, what would you say?
For me, I think you have a president who is opening up his arms to say, here I am. I'm aware of all the challenges that are there in South Africa. I'm coming in as a servant, and I'm prepared to work with all political parties and in the interest of all the citizens. And I think we have a good one.
Thanks for that. Levi, political analyst, giving us his views as to what has been a very interesting day, actually. Very interesting couple of days we've seen, not just in Parliament, but all around the country. But let's go back to Parliament now. Our, parliamentary reporter, Lucanio Talata, is standing by. Lucanio, very good afternoon once again. What's happening in the precinct there?
Eben, good afternoon. Look, the excitement just doesn't seem to want to stop here this afternoon. We a little bit earlier on, when we were speaking, we had to hand over to you guys in studio because the ANC supporters were here singing. We are ready for Cyril. They're very happy, obviously, that now the ANC president is also the president of the Republic. I can tell you that I'm now joined by the chief whip of the majority party, Mr. Jackson Mthembu, to talk to us a little bit about everything that has unfolded over the last couple of hours. Mr. Mthembu, good afternoon, and thanks so very much for joining us. Are you satisfied now that the ANC members of Parliament have elected a new president of the Republic?
Definitely, we are satisfied, but more than that, you will know that the president of the ANC is now able, as the president of the country, to take forward the mandate that he carries from the 54th Conference of the African National Congress. But most importantly, he is able to take forward in government the January 8th statement of the NEC of the ANC. So we are therefore confident that you don't have any confusion now between the ANC president and the president of the Republic. It is all merged in one person. And that was the intention of the Polokwane resolution in 2012, where it said it's very preferable that the president of the ANC should in fact be the person who is also the president of the country. So we are very happy that this has happened now.
We have the State of the Nation address tomorrow. What is it that you, as the members of the ANC caucus, wanted to hear, obviously, from the new president of the Republic, issues that you, as members of Parliament, will then have to carry forward throughout the rest of the year? What can we look forward to in the new president's State of the Nation address?
You will know that the new president has been on record to say that we need to grow the economy. Therefore, we need some better mechanism of growing the economy. We hope that will come out in his statement tomorrow, so that you have unemployment. Of course, the state has dipped with 1%. It is standing at 26%. Therefore, even 26% of unemployment in the country is just too high a percentage. You need to grow the economy. You need to remove the unemployment figures from the face of South Africa. You need to give hope to young people who are getting out of universities, who are getting out of colleges, and who are getting out of high schools, that indeed there is a future for them in this country. Therefore, these are the things that the president will speak to. But you can't do all these things when there are allegations abounding that government resources are being looted, government resources are being taken away to some places illegally. You also need to be decisive in dealing with looting of state resources.
Let's quickly then turn back to the sitting this afternoon. What we saw, obviously, is the EFF, who tabled a motion in Parliament. So too did the Democratic Alliance, who are all saying that, look, they're calling for the dissolution of this Parliament because, obviously, I mean, as the EFF described it, some of the things that were happening inside the National Assembly this afternoon were things that were illegal. The ANC's response to that?
Well, they know very well that nothing illegal has happened. The Chief Justice of our judiciary will not be party to anything illegal. Let's first start there. Of course, even the election of a president that happened this afternoon happened in terms of Section 86 of our Constitution. So that was constitutional. That was informed by a vacancy that has been created with the resignation of President Zuma after his recall. So there was absolutely nothing illegal. There's nothing unconstitutional. We are very convinced that basically the EFF was political.
So no support of the motion to dissolve Parliament then?
What will be the basis? Because you see, you don't dissolve Parliament for the sake of dissolving Parliament. You should have a basis for dissolving Parliament. We have no problem if they want us to discuss a motion that the DA has put on the table on the dissolution of Parliament. By all means, we are ready as ANC to debate that motion because there is no justification. First of all, Parliament is working. Parliament was at work this afternoon. Parliament will be at work tomorrow, getting the State of the Nation address from the President of the Republic. Parliament will be at work on Monday, debating. Parliament will be at work on Tuesday, getting a response. Parliament will be at work on Wednesday, getting a budget statement. Now, what is it that Parliament is failing to do? I am battling to find grounds for dissolution, but be that as it may, we believe also that is political. Let them come and bring that motion before the House. We are prepared to debate that motion, and we are confident that many parties in that House will not agree with that dissolution of Parliament.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. That was Mr. Jackson Mthembu, who is the Chief Whip of the African National Party, the majority party, of course, in the National Assembly and in Parliament. Let me quickly bring in now Reverend Kenneth Mishwe, who is the leader of the African Christian Democratic Party, to give us his take as to the events that took place this afternoon. Reverend Mishwe, just initially your reactions to the election of Cyril Ramaphosa as President of the Republic.
It was interesting to know that all political parties supported his nomination and election. When an opportunity was given by the Chief Justice for a further nomination, nobody came with another name, meaning that all members of parliament, all leaders in the National Assembly believe that if Mr. Ramaphosa is given an opportunity and also is helped, he can help to turn the corner for South Africa. We are all concerned, obviously, about the morass that we're in, the corruption that South Africa is in, and we are determined to help him to succeed, because if South Africa sings, we are going to sing together. But we want to see South Africa work, we want to see South Africa succeed, we want to see South Africa become a model among nations of the world, and also South Africa defeat unemployment and joblessness. We want investments in South Africa, and to do that, corruption must become the #1 enemy of Mr. Ramaphosa. We are going to remind him of that. If he becomes ruthless with corruption, deal with criminality, and ensure that even in cabinet, he uses as broom to sweep clean all those who are corrupt in cabinet, in parliament, that he does not fear anybody, no fear or favor of anyone, then South Africa definitely will become a leader among nations of the world. We are a blessed country, and we believe that with the right leadership, and we want to give Ramaphosa the opportunity as opposition parties, work with him for the sake of South Africa, because we want our people, the poor people of South Africa, to have jobs and to be safe in their homes and safe in their streets. We believe he's the man that can help us do that.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Reverend. Let me now quickly see if I can bring in the IFP here, Mr. Naren Singh, who is, of course, the chief whip of the IFP. Mr. Singh, firstly, I think let me start off with you as to where does the IFP stand on this matter of the dissolution of Parliament?
Well, we've had preliminary discussions within our caucus, and we certainly don't think that this is the time for dissolution of Parliament. We've got another 18 months or so to go before the election. We've got a new president. Many people complained about the leadership of President Zuma, and we've got a new president now. Let's see how things unfold, and we look at this as an opportunity for the IFP to grow, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, because without President Zuma, who took away a lot of votes from us in the last election, appealing to the people of that province, we see this as an opportunity, but we need time to garner more support for the 2019 election.
What are, according to the IFP, what are some of the key issues that Ramaphosa, who is now the new president, must address immediately?
Scourge of corruption, removal of cabinet ministers, even if there was a whiff of them having been involved in state capture. We cannot wait for a beyond doubt outcome. They need to be removed on the basis that this is a holding of a political office. We need him to seriously engage with us as political parties, and particularly with the IFP, on the question of the Ngonyama Trust Board and the future of people, millions of people in KwaZulu-Natal who rely on having to use land that is administered by the Ngonyama Trust Board. That's a very serious matter for us, and that's something that will be the first item on our agenda.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Let me bring in Prof. Kubisa from the National Freedom Party. Prof, to also same question, where does the NFP stand on the matter of the dissolution of Parliament?
Well, this matter is not coming for the first time to Parliament, and as the National Freedom Party, we objected to the matter because we said we are public representatives brought here by members of the public to say we must serve them for 5 years. Parliament has a responsibility to do oversight, and we believe that we must fight it within the aspect of the Constitution. No, the dissolution of Parliament is not for us. But of course, we're in a multi-party democracy. Any party has got a right to bring whatever matter, and when the Speaker accedes to that matter can be debated. But this is the position of the NFP. We don't support the dissolution of Parliament.
All right. And then let's. What must Ramaphosa do immediately to try and steady the ship? Give me 2-3 issues that he must address immediately.
Number one, he has got to check the question of the human capital, whether he has got the right human resources, that is the cabinet, whether they're in the right place so that they are able to do the job according. This is number one. Number two, he has got to look into the issue of corruption and state capture and nip that in the bud. The issue of unemployment in our country, it must be attended to as soon as possible. Our youth are unemployed. The issue of land, agriculture, our people must brought back to land, to plow and be given land. That issue must be attended to as soon as possible. Education, quality education, free education, which is funded by the state. That is what we're fighting for as the NFP.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. That was Professor Nhlanhla Kubisa from the National Freedom Party. Let me quickly now turn to Mr. Lulama Nchaisa from the AIC. Mr. Nchaisa, your take on your reaction, at least, as to the election of President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yeah, as African Independent Congress, we welcome the election of Cyril Ramaphosa. We think Cyril Ramaphosa is going to be equal to the task because their policies are not supposed to take the country forward. So if he does implement those policies together with the people, then we think he's going to make it. And again, if you can just reduce the cabinet, because it is too big, man. There's a lot of money that is being wasted there. So he must just reduce the cabinet, then we'll see what is to do, because we have got to bring services to our people. Yes.
All right. So thank you very much. That was Lulama Nchaisa from the African Independent Congress. Before him was the NFP. So a range of MPs and multiple parties here saying that they support President Cyril Ramaphosa, and the fact that he's got a couple of things that he must urgently attend to, Eben. One of them is corruption. Second is he must reduce the size of his cabinet, and that whoever within his cabinet, if there's even a whiff of them being being implicated in issues of corruption, he must immediately get rid of them, and they must be dealt with by the by the long arm of South Africa's law. And then thirdly, I think the issue of land and obviously the issue of expropriation without compensation is something that the new president is definitely going to deal with in Parliament. Eben, it's over to you in studio.
Yeah, thanks a lot to Lucanio Kalata, doing a super job down at Parliament. Of course, it's all happening there. It's been, well, some call it a landmark day in the history of South Africa. The 5th President of the Republic, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, is our new president. As from, well, 32 minutes past 2 this afternoon, when Chief Justice Mogoeng did the honors by, well, inaugurating him as the president. He'll be delivering the speech, the State of the Nation address, tomorrow night, of course, at 1900. You'll be able to watch that on this very channel. But let's go back to Soweto now. From the president's home in Chawelo, we're joined by our reporter Mbali Sibanyoni. Very good afternoon to you once again, Mbali.
Good afternoon, Eben. We are coming at you live from the streets of Chawela. We're just outside the home where President Cyril Ramaphosa grew up. And of course, this is the neighborhood where the president also attended his primary education, his high school education as well, and also interacted with this specific community. Now I'm going to bring in one of the neighbors in this community. Mama, you were telling me earlier about that you knew Cyril Ramaphosa, and you knew him as a young man growing up in these streets.
Cyril Ramaphosa, ngimazi from Dala. Ngisakhula, ngikhula angibhekile, akhule naye ngimbhekile. Umuntu o self discipline, ongakwazi ukukwata, awungeke umazi ukuthi ukwatile or ujabulile ngoba ubuso bakhe buhlala bunjalo. And into engijabulisayo, le speech as addressile namhlanje, abaningi bebangakholwa ukuthi angaze address the way address ngakhona. Siyambongela yonke into azoyenza, uNkulunkulu ahambe naye, nabakube bahambe naye, zonke izinto nani South Africa yonke, khululani inhliziyo zenu. Nikhulule namafindo lani wabophile aqhubekele phambili akhona ukusihola asiholele emphakathini wezandla ezilungile neyonke into elungile nathi akhona ukusitakula kule lokulo daka lo lesikulo ikhona ukuthi izinto zihambe kahle siyakubongela.
I'm now also going to bring in someone here who wants to say a word or two about our newly elected President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, Mama, what is your message to Ubab Cyril Ramaphosa?
Ubab Cyril Ramaphosa, mina ngikhule ngamazi wazi wabazali bami maruma mamdewe embeka ngakhona mtshela Cyril Ramaphosa umntana olungile okhule kahle, umntana nenhlonipho. Nathi nje siyababona ngoba mina ngiyeza la kubo ngizokhuluma nosisi wakhe abantu abashapha. Thanda ukumbongela kakhulu. Ngithi inkosi mayimandisele. Naye isandla sakhe sibe sikhulu sifinyelele la singafinyeleli khona. uNkulunkulu abe naye. ubumnyama budede kuvela ukukhanya mama. Siyambongela kukhenzela Ramaphosa. God bless you.
Right. Thank you very much. We are also joined here by a number of young people. How do you guys feel that the newly elected president of South Africa comes from this neighborhood?
I'm very happy, and I don't know what to say, but it says that Halala Cyril Ramaphosa, and South Africa is going to be a better country from now on.
Are you happy that the new president comes from this area?
I'm very, very, very happy, and I believe that as long as we have change, as long as we have a new leader, I believe that South Africa will be a better place to live in. I'm very, very, very happy, and I believe that Shawela, South Africa, it will be more developed than it is right now. I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy right now.
Right, there you have it, Eben. This neighborhood is in jubilation at this moment. They can't even express themselves anymore. They're saying that they are so happy, they are delighted, and they're just saying blessings on the newly elected president. It's back to you in studio.
Yeah, thank you very much to Mbali Simanyoni there, bringing us, well, from the alma mater of the new president of South Africa. Now I've got Levi and Doe still with me in studio. Hello again, Levi. We've been very patient here. I have to commend you for that. But let's talk about the work ahead for Cyril Ramaphosa while things are, well, we're looking forward to the State of the Nation address, of course, tomorrow, and I think we'll get an idea what the priorities will be for the party and the president. But his work right now, the most important work, is it inside or outside the ANC?
His work is both in and outside the ANC. You know, the ANC has serious challenges, especially before they went to Nasrec. The divisions within the ANC, which has been deep-rooted from the time they went to Polokwane. And I think that is one thing that has to start fixing. And that is why their theme at Nasrec was that of talking about unity and renewal. So that is one aspect that he has to look at. But I think Cyril is coming at a very good time because the challenges of the ANC and South Africa are well known to all of us. He must deal with corruption. He must bring in very good, dedicated people in cabinet. I think also in terms of the administration, he needs to ensure that we have got skilled, qualified and very competent people because South Africans can't wait any more longer.
State of the Nation address tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. I think it's been postponed, and the nation, of course, is waiting with bated breath. Is there any extra pressure on him to come up with a silver bullet in his State of the Nation address tomorrow night?
He might take long to deliver the speech, but for me, Cyril must provide a plan for South Africa in terms of fighting corruption. He must develop a plan to ensure that there is service delivery in South Africa. He must also look at issues that relates to crime. And those are the major issues that he has to look at. But amongst all the other challenges that South Africa face, I think he needs to build on a very, very strong team. But also, he still has to go outside the ANC. Remember, he has got a lot of support from COSATU and the SABC.
Yeah.
And in terms of consultation, and which was quite lacking with President Zuma, I think that is one other area that Cyril Ramaphosa has to focus on.
Now, of course, reshuffle has been the buzzword the last couple of days since development started to happen. And, of course, a couple of ministers are already in the crosshairs. They've been mentioned in the media that they'll be the first ones to go. How do you think the new president will be dealing with the issue of his cabinet and the way forward in the short and medium term?
There is no way that Ramaphosa is going to avoid cabinet reshufflement. His appointment into being the president necessitates reshufflement. But also at the same time, because in the ANC they've been emphasizing unity, he needs also to ensure that even those who did not support him has to get onto the cabinet. But also at the same time, he's not supposed to compromise quality and service delivery. But obviously, you would agree with me that he has also to look at the women that are supposed to be represented. That is the chorus that the Women's League has been singing for a very, very long time. And also start putting in young people into leadership positions. And I think that he will then be able to bring a much better team.
Now, Levi, you're a man, you're in the trenches every day. You see politics, politicians, you live it. We're just seeing the arrest of some of the Guptas there. You see on screen the Hawks have declared AJ Gupta a fugitive from the law. How should we as South Africans read that and the entire matter as it is playing out? We understand that Duduzane Zuma is also needed for questioning. How should we view this?
The public protector presented a report on the state capture. And in the main, the purpose of the report was to look at the influence of the Gupta family in the running of the affairs in South Africa. And I think immediately after the Gupta brothers heard of the possibility of President Zuma resigning, I think that's when they felt that something is actually coming towards them. But the reason is, why would they run away? Why would they become fugitives if they are actually innocent?
We saw a story, of course, that comes from Lanseria Airport, that it was the pilots that refused to take off with one of the Gupta brothers in there. It's all a little bit Hollywood, isn't it?
It is quite a Hollywood setup. My sense is, why would they then leave only after realizing that the ANC has taken a decision to recall President Zuma? Because all these things actually just happened yesterday. But I think we need to trust our law enforcement agencies to ensure that those that are seem to be wanting in relation to the law must actually be brought to book.
You talk about that. Are we going to see in this administration, in the short term now, we're going to see a crackdown on the big C, the corruption? Are we going to see a crackdown on what's happening with regards to governance in SOEs and other kind of government business, municipalities, even the like? Do you think that we're going to see a real crackdown in the next few months?
Well, the ANC started off by saying they need to get rid of corruption. And if you recall, just in January, the first thing that happened was the changing of the board at ESCOM. And I think that is exactly where the current administration has to run into.
Yeah.
In his short address now, President Ramaphosa spoke about going to look at the performance of SOEs and ensuring that there is efficiency and then there is value for money. And that is exactly what one would actually expect. But it might not be easy to fight against corruption, but at least there should be a political will on the part of the leaders to ensure that that becomes a reality. One other area that we need to look at as well is that, complicated as it is, there are those that might still be in the ANC today who might be implicated and obviously will need a firm hand from the leadership of government to ensure that does not happen.
No doubt South Africa and the world will be watching. Levi Ando, political analyst, joining us here today, giving us his considered views on the president-elect of South Africa. Yes, Cyril Ramaphosa completed his first speech as the president-elect. He'll only become the president, once he's inaugurated, really, of the country. Well, he completed that to a standing ovation and rapturous applause from ANC as well as opposition MPs alike in the National Assembly. In accepting his new responsibilities, the newly elected president of the Republic says it's still not yet Uhuru.
This is not yet Uhuru. We've never thought that this was Uhuru. What we've always said is that we are going to seek to improve the lives of our people on an ongoing basis. And since 1994, we've done precisely that. The lives of our people have been improving on an ongoing basis, and the commitment that you will find on this side, which commitment I would like you also to be part of, is that all of us should continue to improve the lives of our people and take their lives to a higher level. I'd like to end by thanking my comrade Jackson Mthembu for your most wonderful words. I thank you, and I'm here as a result of the support that I've received from my organization, the African National Congress. The African National Congress, which continues to lead the national democratic revolution in our country, to bring about change, is what has put many of us here in this house. And our intent is to continue, indeed, to improve the lives of our people. And ladies and gentlemen, members of this House, Madam Speaker and Chief Justice, that is what I would like to say at this moment. And thank you all for this great opportunity that I've been given. And I will try to work very hard not to disappoint the people of South Africa. Thank you very much.
All right, so that's President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa being not sworn in, but has been elected earlier on this afternoon, and that was kind of his acceptance speech, his first address as the President-elect of South Africa. Meanwhile, the Treasurer General of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, says that the ANC is confident and happy with the newly appointed President Cyril Ramaphosa.
And I'd like to say on the behalf of the ANC that we congratulate Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa for having been elected by this National Assembly to be President of the Republic of South Africa. What is even more exciting and humbling to us is that he was elected unopposed, unanimously, and almost all the parties welcomed him, and indeed said that they know that he's a man who will take the country forward. We wish him well, and we as the ANC are very convinced that the right candidate has been put in the right job.
Now, it's been a pretty good day at the office for economists, I guess, as they've been watching the markets bustling with a stronger rand and steady bonds. The markets were rejoicing over the exit of former President Jacob Zuma and the ushering in of Cyril Ramaphosa as President number 5 in a democratic era. But the new president is inheriting an economy in tatters. How will he cope? Will transforming it in only 18 months, because that's how much he's got in terms of an audition for next elections. Well, Maudi Linswane is a Managing Director at Lehoma Investments, and he joins us now in studio. Let's talk about this rand. I mean, yesterday when I looked at the figures, I actually had to refresh a couple of times because I thought I got them wrong. Yeah. But it was quite remarkable what happened yesterday, and that was even before the actual resignation. So I think that markets had pretty much decided it was going to happen. But why so much exuberance and excitement?
No, thank you for having me here, Peter. And I think you're quite right. I mean, we started having the reaction well ahead of the much anticipated resignation letter. And this was primarily because the NEC had already spoken and recalled him. And once the NEC had done that, it almost confirmed that he was on his way out. So that's why we started seeing the reaction well ahead of his official resignation. And I think, it's been long coming. The fact of the matter is, Zuma's administration has done so much damage to the South African economy that, just getting that confirmation that he's out would have been a first step towards addressing all the problems that South Africa has. So that's why you're seeing all this positive sentiment.
Why is it that the markets have been able to separate Cyril Ramaphosa from this government? Because he was deputy president, head of government business. He was at the center of it.
No, he was. But ultimately, the last line of defense, it's the man in charge, which is the president. So far as you are as a second to the president, you don't have the same authority that the president has. And of course, we all know, the problems that South Africa faced, the state capture problems that we face. Those are the things that had to do a lot with the president, Jacob Zuma himself, that his friends, the Guptas, obviously implicated in all those state capture. Those are the friends of Jacob Zuma, and that's why Cyril was able to come out to say, look, I stand for a different view, and therefore that's why the investors read Cyril as probably the best person to get the economy out of the the problems.
All right, so what does he need to do for this economy? Because, you know, for a long time, President Zuma often talked about coming out of recession. It's not just us. Yeah. But I think the numbers showed that we should have been doing better than comparative economies, and then we just weren't there. So there were own goals that we were scoring. Yep. And I wonder what those own goals are that Cyril Ramaphosa has to plug and what he has to do going forward.
You know, those own goals, well documented. I mean, number of changes to some of the key ministerial positions. You know, the reshuffling of the ministers without, you know, giving proper reasons, justifiable reasons, and just basically destabilizing the whole government. Those are some of the own goals that have to be not repeated. Secondly, turning a blind eye on what was evident, you know, signs of corruption, a rooted corruption, which had turned our state-owned enterprises into, you know, into a joke, non-performing, continuous losing a lot of money. So Cyril, if he's to turn this economy around, he has to take care of, number one, root out all the wastages that we've seen in the state-owned enterprises. Take care of that. And also, of course, we have to ensure that those that are corrupt, they are prosecuted, and ensure that we clamp down on the leakages that we've had.
So how does he balance the books? You know, he's inheriting this business that's in debt, that is spending more than it's earning and is finding it difficult to borrow because the creditors are saying that you're not creditworthy. Yeah. How does he, and also he's not getting much revenue in from the tax line as well. So how does this business survive, which is called South Africa?
Yeah, I think, let me quote some of the, you know, famous words by one of the US economists, Larry Summers, when he said, and which is true, confidence is the most efficient form of stimulus one can ever, you know, have to the economy. What Cyril has is the confidence, the investor confidence. It's the best stimulus ever. So he's starting off a very positive ground. The fact that the investors are positive, when investors are positive, they'll look at Brand South Africa with a positive view, come to South Africa. We've already seen it reflected on the rand. They are coming to South Africa to do investments, to look for those opportunities, to create jobs for our people, which is the much needed jobs that South Africans need. We sit with the unemployment at 27%. It cannot be. We sit with the economy that is growing under 1% when the GDP, or rather the population, is growing at about 2%. So doing 3% for this economy is not enough. We need to do far more than that. And what we've done, before he even, you know, do anything, he's done one thing. He brings with himself confidence, which is very important.
And also, you know, when businesses think about recovery, there's two things you've got to do. The one side is increase income, and that could be tax revenue. Yep. So the budget next week is going to be important, and we may see things like VAT. Let's talk about the income statement first. Yep. Where's the money going to come from to create revenue for this business that we're trying to save? Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I think while it looks much better, the picture looks much brighter going forward in the long run. In the short term, we've got all these challenges that have to be addressed. The books are not balancing. We've got you know, expenditure which surpass, you know, revenue. So there are a number of you know, areas where we would unfortunately have to look at to address these immediate needs. And unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news and say more tax increases will have to be implemented to be able to plug the gap which exists. You know, so whether there could be a number of things, and I think the one that has been talked about but never implemented is the VAT issue. Probably we could look in that area where it's not a popular one politically. But
globally, we're quite low in comparison, aren't we?
Right.
So we've got space, I think, to raise it a little bit.
That is correct. I mean, most of the countries are averaging around 15%. So we're sitting at 14%. So, and VAT is one of the less cumbersome when it comes to administratively easy to administer. 1% raises quite enough to be able to plug some of the shortfall. We've got, you know, the free education that has been announced. We've got a number of other expenditures that obviously have been announced, and we've got to plug in that gap. But the key one is the fact that we need to stop the leakages through our state-owned enterprises, ESCOM, SAA, you name them.
Unauthorized expenditure, fruitless and wasteful. So that's the income side, revenue, but the other side is you cut expenditure. And if you compare Nelson Mandela's cabinet and you compare Jacob Zuma's cabinet, Jacob Zuma's cabinet, I think, is almost double the size of Nelson Mandela, but it's the same country.
Yeah.
That has got to be one thing he has to address.
Very problematic. That has been the one area where we've said time and again that he's got to rein in on that. We cannot continue to have such an expansion, the cabinet which is bigger than all the other presidents that we've had in the past, and continuing to spend recklessly on a number of things. So he has to rein in on that and ensure that he reforms, structural reforms, those changes. And there's a lot of savings to be made if he gets that right.
And I would imagine, we've got Chapter 9 institutions, the public protector, fund that properly so that we stop those kinds of leakages. But at the same time, the Auditor General seems to be just goes in, reports and leaves. Should the Auditor General have more teeth to be able to enforce and to be able to make things happen? Because that's where most of the money is leaking, isn't it?
No, that's definitely. I mean, there's a lot of work that, as I said, the new administration has to really try and make sure that we get things right. And you are absolutely right. You can't just give you the report and leave it there and not really have the ways of enforcing all those maladministration or mismanagement of funds. There've got to be prizes for doing wrong, and we've got to be seen really implementing and making sure that those that are mismanaging the funds are held accountable.
So what happens to our state-owned enterprises, which really should be the engines of growing the economy and stimulating growth, but they've been the ones sucking us dry? How do we turn those around?
The first steps that I've seen that have been taken is that we've had changes and very positive changes that we've seen at ESCOM, for example. The new board that has come in has brought in, the new hope that they will, of course, manage things differently than as compared to the previous board. And that's where you start. The corporate governance, issues of corporate governance needs to be adhered to. So that's the positive changes that I've seen. If we continue to make sure that the board, it's properly well run, and these institutions can really be profitable, the likes of SAA. Also, we've had some changes there. We've had the new CEO come on board. So it's a matter of really giving those people an opportunity to make the changes that are necessary.
Do we have time? That's the thing. Do we have time? Because these things have to happen yesterday almost. But to change the culture, A, of people not paying, B, the municipalities collecting, so that the ESCOMs of this world can get the money that's due to them. To change that culture is going to take a bit of time and effort.
It is going to take a bit of time. Do we have time before the rating agencies? I think we've done just about enough to probably avert the rating downgrade, because that was the immediate thing that we needed to address. If we couldn't address the issue of a downgrade, then we were certainly on a one-way to a disaster. But I think now that we've sort of almost 80 to 90% taken care of that part, I think we're on the right path.
All right, so you know what, I'm going to pause for a second, because what I'd like us to do right now is go out to Tumelo Machoko, who's I think in Mpumalanga, where we're going to get a sense of the feeling on the ground. It's in Nelspruit, the feeling of people on the ground there today. The country has a new president, Tumelo. Have people been paying attention in Nelspruit?
Well, Peter, people are just coming from work and they're telling us that they just heard the news of Cyril Ramaphosa becoming the president of the Republic. Obviously, we're going to start getting to talk to these people, get their views on what they feel about President Ramaphosa being elected president by the lawmakers in Parliament later this afternoon. But let's talk more about these kind of moments with people here in Nelspruit, and to tell us more about what they feel like for a new president to be elected Cyril Ramaphosa. It's a watershed moment for South Africa because Cyril Ramaphosa was one of those people who was President Mandela wanted him to be his deputy. He's officially now the president of the Republic of South Africa. What's your view on Cyril Ramaphosa?
I think it's a very exciting moment in South Africa. It's a new day, man. It's a new dawn. We need something fresh. We need new ideas. He's someone new. Out of all the things that happened, you know, the scandals and whatnot, maybe if Mandela trusted Cyril, we can trust him. I mean, come on. Even though it caught me by surprise, I was at school and everything. But we can trust Cyril, man. He sounds educated. You know, he can bring new ideas. He's business-minded. So we can trust him to, like, elevate the economy and help grow this country.
Okay, fantastic. A young man just coming from school and then just heard about the news, and obviously we're becoming very sentimental as South African also because we know that he was President Mandela wanted him to become his deputy. That day you wearing an ANC shirt. Please tell us more about what do you feel about Cyril becoming the new president?
I feel very good about Cyril because I know Comrade Cyril. Even myself, I know him even outside because he was used even to come to visit us in exile because I'm a veteran. And even Comrade JZ, I know him. He's a humble man. Even did resigned as had been resigned. So it is good. So I feel happy to resign for Comrade JZ to put Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa to be a new president.
Thank you, Ndate. Let's get more people to talk to us. What do you feel about Cyril becoming the president of the South Africa?
No, I hope maybe it will be a new era to our country. So Zuma was a corrupt president, so now we are happy to see him resigning on his foot.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, obviously, people are very, very excited about Cyril Ramaphosa becoming the president of the Republic. Back to you guys in Johannesburg.
Excitement all around South Africa, as you can see, of course. If you missed it at, 2 minutes after 2:30 this afternoon, Cyril Ramaphosa became the, 5th president of South Africa. President-elect is actually until he's inaugurated, I'm told. But I've got Levi and Doe still with me here, and it's a long day in the saddle. Levi, thanks for staying with us. How should we view the mood in South Africa right now? We see a lot of excitement. Is it the Obama's hope that we are seeing?
Yeah, well, Eben, remember that whilst President Zuma was still in government, there has been a lot of calls for him to be removed from power. And it did not only come from the opposition parties, even within the ANC and ordinary citizens as well. And from last night, when most people heard about the resignation of President Zuma, there was a lot of excitement. I think, as rightfully said, it's similar to the hope that the Americans had when Obama came into power.
Yeah.
And people are like saying, at last, there is this new hope. There is this sigh of relief. But I think also at the same time, they need also to give him sufficient space to say, we know the challenges that are there, build up on the strategies to deal with these challenges, and at the same time, South Africans must give Ramaphosa the necessary support. But also at the same time, you will still have people that are not excited about the new president. Even within the ANC, those that are corrupt and those that were poor performing would obviously not be excited because they know that the new chief is in the house and things have to be done quite differently.
You talk about the state of the ANC. I want to just delve into that a little bit because we saw what happened at the elective conference. This wasn't a landslide victory for Cyril Ramaphosa at the elective conference. It was very close. It was a few dozen votes, one could say, or just over 100 votes at the end of the day that made the difference. Would it be too simplistic to say that this is how the ANC is split and this is the challenge that Cyril Ramaphosa is facing, or have we seen a shift in the balance of forces since then?
I think one other area that we need to look at is that whilst the ANC candidates had to campaign, what were the different strategies and instruments that they used in their campaign? I think that's quite critical. And you know, there has been vote buying, manipulation of membership, and that cannot necessarily translate to the actual voice of the people. And you know, a number of branches had to be prevented from attending conference, and a number of things. And I think that is where the ANC has to start looking at, to say, how do we then have a fair election so that it should be a reflection of the will of the branches of the ANC. And that is quite worrying. And that is why even at Nasrec, we would be worried that we're not sure whether Cyril is going to make it or Nkosazana Zuma is going to make it. But that is the nature of democracy. But one biggest challenge of the ANC is that democracy should not be exercised in the ANC in the manner that it will end up killing the organization.
Now, Levi, here we have the venue. We have the venue where the inauguration of Cyril Ramaphosa should take place, I'm told, sometime around 5 o'clock. We'll bring that to you live. Yes, he will be inaugurated today. You can watch it on this very channel. And, of course, the State of the Nation address will take place tomorrow night at Parliament in the National Assembly. I've got Levi Ndo here with me. There you see Lindiwe Sisulu. She's there. You heard Julius Malema earlier calling her names in the National Assembly. I won't say what he said, but Levi, I want to come back to talking about the state of the ANC. You spoke about that. You mentioned the ills and the issues facing Cyril Ramaphosa. These are not big issues. These are issues at the lower levels of government. We're talking about a local government. These are the challenges that the likes of a Cyril Ramaphosa would have to overcome almost inside of his first term in order to, I would say, change the organization or bring the organization back to health, because the problem lies at municipality level, doesn't it?
It does, and I think in the main it has to start with a change of attitude. You have got a lot of people who have joined the ANC not because they want to serve, because they want to put their interest first. And I think that is one other area that the ANC has to look at firstly. That is why in a number of provinces and in some areas, when you hear of an elective gathering of the ANC, people will be fighting, other members will even get killed, because the ANC is not being able to deal with this kind of a matter wherein leadership position in the ANC has to translate to certain benefits. And that is one other area that the ANC has to look at. But also, one other biggest challenge that the ANC faces as well is that it focuses on the majority and not on the quality. And you'll remember in 2012, the ANC was very excited that they've reached 1 million members. But to which extent does those million members translate to quality, building the organization and transforming the lives of ordinary citizens? And that is not what we actually see.
Going back to the principles of the liberation movement, really, when we talk about serving the people, has that principle been lost? We asked that, we saw a little bit earlier, Cyril Ramaphosa touched on it. He said we have to be servants of the people, and he himself sees himself as a servant of the people. That's why he wants to reach out and work with other political parties. Has the ANC lost that principle of serving, and how does one man change that?
Well, I think in the main it's about attitude, but it's also about what this person wants to achieve at the end of the day. You have a situation where you had the good history of the ANC in terms of liberating South Africa, but also at the same time you need to look at the background of the individuals within the ANC. Where do they actually come from? And there has been this mentality within the members of the ANC that seek to say, we fought for this country, we fought for liberation of South Africa, and we need in turn have to benefit because we actually fought. And that is why you would get questions when someone is elected into a position. They'll say, give us the credentials of this person in the struggle. Questions like, has this person ever been to exile?
Yeah.
What has this person been doing in the past 20 years? Instead of looking at what this person can bring in the movement that can benefit the entire population.
This is a question that will need to be answered within the first term, if there is to be a second term, one would think, for Cyril Ramaphosa. But let's park that there. I want to talk to the pictures quickly. Of course, we see Bheki Cele. He's just come in there. Paul Mashatile is there. Lindiwe Sisulu. They're all coming in for the inauguration now. On that point, let's quickly talk about the new cabinet, because there will be a reshuffle for sure. Who are the names on your list? Now, I've got sources sending me lots of names, telling me who are the people that are going to be recalled and who are the people that are going to be coming in. Who do you think, off the top of your head, are the ones that are going to be recalled in a reshuffle?
Quite difficult to tell, but political parties and research groups would always do a score point.
Yeah.
To say this minister is performing very well, this minister is performing very, very well. But the presidency has introduced the performance contracts by ministers to say, I've been able to achieve the following in the next period or so. This is what I'm actually going to do. But I think Mr. Ramaphosa has to start by looking at the competency of ministers in different departments. But at the same time, he has to ensure that the unity that the ANC has been talking about at Nasrec is also being maintained.
Yeah.
Most of the ministers who have been identified as being incompetent are unfortunately female ministers.
Yes.
And at the same time, there is a talk about the 50-50 in the ANC. And obviously, President Ramaphosa has to ensure that women are actually being represented.
But we have special circumstances now where the needs of the country surely supersedes all these other requirements in the short term, where competency might supersede all other requirements. Would that be fair comment?
Indeed. What the president has to do is to focus mainly on competency. But another unfortunate challenge that he might come across will be to ensure that he also accommodates COSATU, accommodate the SACP and the Women's League. And if he would wish also maybe to identify certain individuals from the opposition, because he said he wants to work very nicely with the opposition, he can still identify some competent individuals from the opposition maybe to come in and become cabinet ministers. And that would actually be indicating to the opposition that I'm actually here not only to work with ANC people, but also work with the opposition as well.
Liva, you're starting to sound like a politician. Yeah, when I ask you for names, you give me a whole run around of all the things that could happen. I'm going to cut to the chase with you. Malusi Gigaba and Minister Razmataz, are we going to see them next week?
There is a possibility that they might come back. In the responsibilities that has been given to them, for me, they've actually performed very fairly. The Minister Razmataz is very much vibrant. He communicates very, very well with the...
On Twitter, yes.
He's always there. We know exactly what is happening in his department. But I know that Aaron Motsoaledi is going to stay on.
You know that?
I know that Aaron Motsoaledi is going to stay.
What about Bongani Bongo? What about Batabile Dlamini?
Well, that can be very easy to retain those. You know, I find it difficult to identify the areas where I would say Batabile Dlamini has excelled.
Yeah.
But I think at the final analysis, the president has the last word to say. But indeed, in the interests of South Africa, incompetent and corrupt ministers should not be accommodated in the current administration.
Well, Levi, thank you once again for your considered views. Levi Ando, political analyst with us here. Well, the whole day has been here most of the day, giving us interesting views and casting a shadow over some of the ministers, Levi, but I think that is fair comment, to be honest with you.
Well, indeed, yes.
Thanks for being with us, Levi. Let's take a couple of tweets now. We're going to show you what you guys are telling us. Of course, it is that day. It's a landmark day for South Africa. This one from Gia Nicolaides. That one sounds quite... That name sounds like a radio name. I think it's a radio name on, well, one of the Joburg radio stations. I'm going to name it. She says, breaking. Ramaphosa has been elected as the new president of South Africa. Yes, we are far in front of them, as you can see here on SABC News. This one from Kate Davis, who says, Fubs, above all, he's a selfless, disciplined leader, and he knows he's here to serve the people of South Africa and bring about a prosperous economy from which all can benefit. Hashtag Ramaphosa. Faisal Patel, he says to us, Ramaphosa is a product of deep principles. Lindsay Dentlinger comes to us and says, his election will strengthen unity in the country and transform nationhood. His leadership is not a historical and academic matter. He is a selfless, disciplined leader. That one from Lindsay Dentlinger. Lisa Libber says to us, what a time to be alive. Hashtag Ramaphosa, my president. Yes, sounds like an Obama moment. Yes, that's what Levi said. It feels like hope is alive in South Africa. Peter is standing by to tap into more hope for us here this afternoon.
Eben, thank you very much indeed. Do you know, when you see those tweets and what people are saying on social media, I'm chatting to Maudi Linswane of Lehuma Investments. I kind of feel sorry for this man because he's almost been given this job and to deliver like in 5 minutes. There's so much expectation now, and I wonder if he can be a magician and fix things quickly enough.
Yeah, look, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's just so much expectations of him, and I agree with you. It's going to be a difficult one for him to try and deliver, especially within a short period of time, given the damage, the amount of damage that had already been done. And this is a damage which was not done in 18 months. This is a damage which was done over 9 years. So it's impossible for him to really address all of the challenges within the 18 months. But the start looks positive, and I think over time he will be able to continue to address some of these challenges. We want to see the economy grow. As I said, we need growth of 3% plus to be able to address some of the challenges that we have. We sit with the situation where young people are not finding jobs